Hello student, welcome to this class. We shall continue our discussion with business services. In our previous classes we have discussed about insurance and we have discussed about banking. Now this class we would discuss about another important aids to trade or business services relating to storage of goods, and that is warehousing. The two basic reasons behind why the services of warehouses is needed. We know that the goods that is being manufactured or that are being produced by the producers, generally we find that they are not consumed as much quantity as they are produced. Goods are produced in bulk, whereas they are demanded in a small quantity. Further, there is a time gap between the production and between the actual consumption. The goods are therefore needs to be stored till the time of their actual demand. Besides, it also has to be ensured that the quality of the goods should not deteriorate and goods are protected from the various uncertainties of pilferage, accident and other types of losses. And therefore, we require the facility to store the goods. Now, if we are to discuss and define warehousing or what is a warehouse, so over here, warehouse can be seen as an establishment or a unit. Now, the purpose of this establishment or unit is for storing the goods that have been produced. Those goods are stored over here. They are accumulated over here. And they are stored to such an extent till the time until a demand is created or until they are finally distributed for consumption to the customers. And therefore, the goods has to be retained. So warehouse can be defined as an establishment for a storage or accumulation of goods, and these goods providing proper arrangement for preserving and protecting the goods until the sale. I have already discussed this, that why the goods are required to be protected and preserved till the time of actual sale, because we have seen that there is a difference or there is a time lag between the production and consumption. Consumption do not take place as the goods are produced, but they take place at a later stage. Secondly, the goods have to be protected and they have to preserve till such time. They have to be safeguarded against theft, against accident, against fire, against pilferage. Besides, the quality of the goods should not deteriorate. So a proper arrangement has to be made in the warehouses, providing a proper facility of ventilation, air and other temperature environment where the quality of the good can be retained. So we see that warehouses plays a major service or a major role in the retaining the quality of the goods, and they thus facilitate the exchange of the goods, affecting the transfer of the goods through sale. Secondly, these warehouses, when we say that they are an institution or they are an establishment, why a need arises? Why do we need this, the service of warehouses? Why? There are certain imminent reasons that cannot be avoided, and the services of warehouses are therefore necessitated. The first reason is production in anticipation of demand. We have seen that a producer produces the goods always in anticipation of the demand. The goods are produced in bulk, and we find that goods are consumed in small lots. Therefore, at a different period of year or different period of time, and therefore goods has to be stored till they are demanded. till actual demand arises in the market. So the need of warehousing arises. The second need is seasonal production. We know that there are various goods like rice, wheat, and all other consumable items, foods, especially agricultural item. They are being produced only during a particular season of the year. Whereas we find that the demand of such goods are perennial in a market. Such goods are always in demand. They forms a necessary part of the foods item, and such goods are therefore regular in demand. And therefore, to supply such goods regularly, the services of warehouses is needed, because goods have to be stored to meet the regular demand, to supply regularly. So there is seasonal production, making it necessary that goods has to be stored in order to meet the regular demand in the market. Then the third feature or third requirement is seasonal demand. Now this is exactly opposite. Now we have seen that there were some goods which were produced only during a particular season. There are also goods which though are produced during the entire year, but they are demanded only during a particular season, especially the winter clothes. They are manufactured continuously, but they are being demanded only during a particular season, that is during the winter period. Or we usually prefer very light clothes or cotton clothes during summer, not during winter. In winter we prefer woolen clothes. So the choice, the demand for woolen cloth increases. But their productions, we have already discussed in the first, that production is always in anticipation of the demand. So since there is anticipated production, they has to be kept in a storehouse or in a storage, so that when the actual season arrives, when the demands take place, the goods can be catered, the goods can be supplied. So that was the third reason why the service is needed. The fourth is about storage of raw material. Yes, we have seen that production is a continuous process. Goods are produced continuously. To ensure that the production of goods, right from this place to here, till the time of consumption, it must continue on. To ensure that the availability of raw material has to be ensured by the business, so that the production activities keep on moving. And it ensured that raw material which are being purchased by the business houses, they has to be insured, they has to be stored, they have to ensure that the production activities should not get hampered. Continuous production should go on, otherwise the demand would not be able to met out by a hampered production. If we shut down the production due to scarcity or due to irregular supply of raw material, then probably we would lose a market share to the other producer. And therefore, it is to be ensured that there is a regular supply of goods in a market, and for that, a regular availability of the raw material has to be ensured. And this storage of raw material also necessitates the services of warehouses. We have stabilizing prices. Generally, we have seen in economics the law of demand. It operates, and there is a great relationship. There is a direct relationship, or we can say there is an inverse relationship between the price and the demand. Generally, what happens as the demand increases, the price tends to decrease, and as the demand decreases, the price will further increase. It will just point it out. The mechanism is such. But how it helps in stabilizing the price? Generally, what happens, how the price is affected, when we find that the supply is more than the demand, generally price tends to reduce. Whereas if the demand exceeds supply, price tends to increase. This is how the price is affected. So the imbalances between the demand and supply causes the price to fluctuate. But when the goods are stored after consumption, after meeting the necessary demand, the surplus goods which are stored, the excess production, the excess unit that have been produced, when they are stored in a warehouse, it ensures that at a time in a market or in such a period when the demand tends to be higher in comparison to supply, it would surely force the price to go high. But warehouses just bridges the gap between demand and supply by ensuring that during such period there would be no less supply, there would be steady supply, thus bridging the gap between demand and supply and helping the price to stabilize. This helps the price not to fluctuate, or it stabilizes the price. So the activities of warehousing is also required because it helps in stabilizing the price. And finally, we have basis of trade. We know that goods are supplied as and when they demand it, or as and when demand arises. If there is no storage of the goods, goods will not be able to be supplied, or rather, the wholesaler stocks the goods. The producer has to store the goods so that the demand can be meted out as and when they arises. It is the very basis of trade. We know that goods are not demanded in bulk, but they are demanded as per the requirement. And therefore, the facility of warehouses or storage is required. So this is the very basis of trade. Trade exists to supply the goods on a continuous basis. The wholesaler, the retailer, whosoever demands the goods, they gets the goods from the warehouses on a regular basis. Wholesaler ensure that there is a regular supply of the goods to the retailer. Retailer ensure that there is a regular supply of the goods to the customer. And that is the basis of trade. If there is a break in the supply of goods, there is no trade. If a person dealing with a particular commodity, specializing in a particular commodity, if there is no supply of the goods, there is no trade. His business ceases to exist. So we conclude that warehouses is at the background or underlies the reason for existence of a trade. So we find here that warehouse is also necessary for trading activities. Now this was the reason why we needed warehouses. Now let us discuss what are the functions which is provided by these warehouses. First, we have creation of time utility. Warehouses create a time utility. How? We know that goods are produced at one part of the year, whereas they are demanded in different parts of the year. They are not demanded. Secondly, they are not demanded in as much quantity as they are produced. So unless the demand arises, the goods have to be stored, they have to be restored, they have to be preserved in a safe condition and in a usable condition. And thus, it ensures the utility. It is increases when the actual time arises. So we say that warehouses facilitates in the creation of time utility. The second is about stockpile. We know that goods has to be stored because goods are demanded in a small quantities or in different needs according to the needs. A trader has to ensure that there is a sufficient requirement, sufficient stock of the goods. The goods has to be piled till the time the actual demand arises. So there is piling of the goods. Goods are manufactured and they are piled up together. till the actual demand arises. So this is also the functions that it helps. Warehouses helps in piling of the goods. The stock which are being manufactured, they has to be piled up together, because we know that the demand is not as much as the goods are produced. Goods are bought in a small bulk, whereas they are produced in a large bulk, in a large quantity. So stock, the excess goods or surplus, has to be maintained. They have to be retained. They have to be protected. So there is stockpiling, one of the function. Then the goods has to be protected. We know that there are various kinds of uncertainties. Goods has to be preserved. Good has to be protected against pilferage, against theft, against deterioration in qualities, so that goods can be used. This was the need of protection of goods. So warehousing provides also a safe custody of the goods. It protects the good from pilferage, from deterioration in the quality, and then by protecting the features of the good. And this happens because there is a well set up structure which maintains the proper condition for storage of the goods, and therefore it provides the function of storage of the goods. There is price stabilization. We have just discussed over here that is stabilizing the price. The same happens, that goods are demanded. There is a difference between demand and supply. Warehouse tends to reduce the imbalances between demand and supply by ensuring that whenever the demand smoothens up, or when there is an increase in demand, the goods can be supplied from the warehouses, from the storage. So we see that it thus helps in bridging the gap between demand and supply, and thus does not allow the price to fluctuate. It thus helps to restore the price, stabilize the price. Then the next one is risk bearing. Yes, usually a businessman, in order to insure the goods or in order to store the goods, they have to make a huge investment by establishing a warehouses. It calls for a huge investment in technologies, in setup of an structure. This may not be possible for all the business houses or all the business enterprises. Goods are therefore exposed to various kinds of risk if they are left open, if they are not stored. Now, warehouse provide an opportunity that the business enterprises do not have to take the risk. They do not have to take the risk of deterioration of the goods, because they provide a safe storage for the goods. The business is not required to make a huge investment as well, and the chances of loss is being reduced. Even if the goods is destroyed, or if it is the quality is deteriorated, then the risk is on the warehouses or the parties who provide the services of warehousing, because the charges are nominal fee for storing the goods for a particular period. And therefore the businessman or a business enterprise that diffuses the risk from themselves to, or from their own business to the warehouses or to parties who maintain the warehousing service. So they have to see that the goods are stored, the goods are retained in proper conditions. We find that there is a sharing of risk, or risk bearing is being transferred. They also bear the risk on behalf of the businessmen or business enterprises. Then there is consolidation. Why the need of consolidation arise? Consolidation means acquisition of the goods from different producers in bulk. There is not one producer or a business who store the goods with the warehouse, but a variety of producers, they store their goods with the warehouses. So there is consolidation. There is a variety of goods that are being stored in a warehouse, and there is a consolidation. When these goods are demanded, they are supplied in packet, or they are packed in a small bulk. And then we have another feature or function relating to this is breaking the bulk. So once the goods which are consolidated over here, variety of goods are stored over here, those goods are supplied in quantity or in packs of quantity as they are demanded. So there is consolidation and there is breaking the bulk. The bulk that they have received, they supply to the wholesaler and to the retailer in the quantity as they have demanded. Then there is grading and standardization. This service is also provided by the warehouses. Warehouses provide packing, providing grading of the goods as per the requirement in the market. The goods are graded in different packs, in different quantity, according to the requirement of the markets. They perform this function on behalf of the seller, on behalf of the marketer. So they provide the functions of grading and standardization. Finally, we have help in financing the trade. Finance is an important aspect for any business activities. If a business want to ensure that the business activities should continue in future, then they must ensure that there is a regular supply of funds. Now these goods which have been stored with the warehouses can be used as a security. They can be pledged with the bank to secure or to obtain the finance from the bank on the security of these goods. So we see that they help in financing the trade. These are the functions of warehouses. Now let us discuss about the types of warehouses. First, we have public warehouses. Public warehouses are the warehouses which are though established by the government, but they are being under licensed hold by the wharfinger or any public authorities, by the port authorities, by the wharfingers, or by any public authorities. They receive the goods from variety of producers. Anybody from the public, they can store the goods from there. The government has provided them a license to hold the goods, and then they maintain or they are managed as per the rules and regulations of the under the license of the government. These warehouses, the parties or the authorities who control this, who manages this, they act as an agent on behalf of the government, and they ensure that the warehouses are managed properly, taking proper care of the goods, providing goods facilities as per the direction and as per the regulation of the government. These warehouses are usually constructed on a favorable routes, like the places which is easily accessible by either railway routes or through main roads, so that the goods can be easily accessible. The transport facilities can easily access them. They provide a good connectivity for transporting the goods from the place of storage to the place of demand. Public warehouses, they are of great help to the small manufacturers. We have discussed that there is a large requirement of funds to make an investment, and a small manufacturer cannot just afford to construct a warehouse. So these public warehouse, they plays a great role for such manufacturer. But they operate on behalf of the government by various public authorities like port authorities, like wharfingers, or any from the public. This is the facilities of public warehouses. Then let us discuss about private warehouses. As the name indicates, private warehouses do not receive the good for storage from anybody else or from any other manufacturers. They have been owned, they have been managed, they have been controlled by private manufacturers. They do not receive the goods from any other manufacturers. They are operated individually, and usually they are operated and owned by large business houses. They are not owned by small business houses. They are owned by large business houses. These warehouses are beneficial because they provide a flexibility and a better delay relationship. So the businessman who produces on a mass scale and who enjoys a variety of dealer, they usually prefer to maintain their own warehouses. So these are the services of private warehouses. Now, as regarding where they are situated, where they are located, so usually they are located in such a place where they would increase the efficiency in material handling. The raw material to be taken to the factory for processing, and then the finished goods can be brought easily to the warehouse. So this is how material is being handled, either raw material or a finished material. So they are located in such a place which ensure maximum efficiency of the movement of the product and material handling. Then the third warehouses is bonded warehouses. The first and foremost is these warehouses are situated near the seaport. Why they are known as bonded warehouses? We know that a trader who is engaged in a foreign trade, import and export, when the goods are brought in, they have to pay certain custom duties. The goods are held there as a security. Unless the custom duty are paid, the goods are not released. So we therefore see that these goods are held in bond for the payment of custom duties, and unless the custom duties is paid, the good has to be retained and they has to be held by the government. So we see that the bonded warehouses, they held these goods as a security. Unless the custom duty is paid, the goods are to be retained there. Another feature of bonded warehouse is that it enables, when the trader finds that they have to pay a huge custom duty, they are not in a position, they can pay only a part of it and get a part of the good delivered to them. They can get a delivery only of the part of the goods for which custom duty has been paid, and rest of the good is left there in custody under a bond, under a security that they would be paying the custom duties. If they do not pay, it would be under the control of the bonded warehouses. So the name is bonded warehouses. Then we have government warehouses. Now government warehouses, the warehouses which procures and maintains the goods on behalf of the government, like State Trading Corporation, Food Corporation of India. When these corporations, they buys goods, they stores them in the warehouses that is being maintained by government. It is not a public warehouse, it is a government warehouse where the purchases on behalf of the government is stored. And a State Trading Corporation, STC or FCI, the warehouses, the godowns, the storage facilities which are under the control of these authorities, they are under the category of government warehouses. And finally, we have cooperative warehouses. As the name indicates, cooperative warehouses are the warehouses which are controlled by a marketing cooperative society, or there is those society which just look into the functions of facilitating the agricultural cooperation, or rather the cooperation between the various members. There may be variety of people, variety of parties who just participate in this cooperative warehouses, and we have studied in our previous cooperative society, we have seen that they are formed as for mutual help, for mutual benefits. So these warehouses, they are also owned, they are managed, they are controlled by pulling out the resources of various agricultural society or various marketing societies. These society, they join together to provide, to store the goods on their behalf and to provide benefits to the members. So these are cooperative warehouses. So that is for today's discussion about warehouses, about need for warehouses, about the function of warehouses, and about the types of warehouses. We shall discuss further. Till then, keep learning. We will meet in the next class.